Welcome to Running for Real, a global community with a shared love and curiosity for running. Together we reconnect with the reasons why we love to run and discover ways it helps us become better people. Whether it's the quiet moments of a morning run while the rest of the world still sleeps, or befriending the strangers next to you at the start line of a race. We are here to connect with others who see running as the common thread that weaves our lives together. Come join me, Tina Muir, as I talk with people from all walks of life, united by a love of running. Hello, my friends. Welcome to episode 295 of the Running for Real podcast. Today we have a bit of a different episode. This is another one of those episodes that people seem to really enjoy, where you just get to basically eavesdrop on a conversation between myself and a very close friend. Today we have four-time returning guest, Evie Serventi, who was my sports psychologist when I was running at the elite level, and dear friend and kind of, how do I put this? She's kind of my on-call psychologist if I need someone. If I'm, losing my mind about something or stressing about something, she always calms me down. She's one of my closest friends. She is a psychologist, a wonderful psychologist. And yeah, it's her fourth time of being back on the show. This conversation was actually recorded a few weeks ago when I was thick in the middle of my bronchitis adventure. Did we call it that? But I wanted to bring Evie on the show because it was a really good time to talk about overdoing it, about listening to your body, about stepping back, about the pressure we put on ourselves. And I knew she'd have good perspective, and I thought it would be helpful for us. So without any further ado, let's go back to meet my dear friend, Evie Serventi. Thank you to Athletic Greens for sponsoring this episode of the Running for Real podcast. Now, before we go into Athletic Greens, I just want to share a little bit from an article in Fast Company, which claims the title is Athletic Greens is now a unicorn. Its unicorn goal, be this generation's cool beverage, which I love that, by the way. But this article in Fast Company talks about the fact that Athletic Greens has become the go-to choice of many athletes, many health and wellness, don't know what the term would be, probably entrepreneurs, people that people look up to. This has been the nutritional supplement choice. They have a massive following of people, including myself, who are very passionate about the product. As I said, it is part of my morning ritual. I wake up, I go downstairs, I pour some cold water into the bottle, I add a scoop of Athletic Greens, shake it up, and then on with my day. Next thing I do. So this powder that is a multivitamin, prebiotic, probiotic, functional greens blend, immune support complex, and more. It's the one thing for everything. So if you are someone that isn't a fan of taking many different pills, you might have a supplement for something that you are deficient in. You might have a supplement for something that you've heard is good for runners. You might have a probiotic, maybe some kombucha that you take on a regular basis for gut health. And there's likely some combination of pills, which pills aren't fun to take. At least I feel like I'm being medicated. But Athletic Greens gives you everything in one place. 75 vitamins, minerals, whole food source ingredients in every single scoop. So it's the one thing to cover all the things. And my friends recently have been asking me, do you actually like the taste of it? And I do. I really do. I love drinking it every morning. I look forward to it. I miss it when I don't have it. And I genuinely notice the compounding effects of it working day after day, week after week, month after month. And I noticed that within a few weeks. And as the months accumulated more and more, I felt my energy increasing. I felt my gut felt more regular, and I just felt like it wasn't so sporadic with how my stomach was feeling. It felt stable, essentially, regardless of what I was eating. I noticed my body felt good in general. I felt good even on days that my diet wasn't the best. So every scoop has the antioxidant equivalent of 12 servings of fruits and vegetables. So you, my friend, if you are in the US, in the UK, Canada or Europe, you can get a 1-year free supply of vitamin D, something runners are often deficient in, by going to athleticgreens.com/Tina. That is athleticgreens.com/Tina. You get that special deal, and go check it out now. Hi friends, before we get started, I just want to mention something that I keep forgetting to tell you about, and that is that the Running for Real team is now collecting up what we are calling Run and Reflect notes for each episode, which means we are getting 10 key takeaways that each guest has either said or we took from what they were saying in the episode, with some reflection questions that you can either use in your journal, you can think about while you are running, you can think about them while you're doing chores. It's just a great way to think about the messages that we heard in the conversation, and also for you, if you want to, if an episode really spoke to you, then it will be a way for us to take notes rather than you. So with that, you will be able to go get those in the show notes. So you can go to the show notes for this episode, and wherever you are listening to it, you will see the show notes. Go click on the Run and Reflect notes, or fill in the box where you can put your email address, and we will email it right to you. Again, you want to check the show notes and find that box where it says we'll email it to you, and we'll get it right to you. There'll be one every week from now on for the episode, and let's get on with the show. Evie, it's 5 a.m. It's your fourth. No, it's fourth, one of very, very few, maybe even the only person to come on the show for the fourth time. Welcome back to Running for Real.
Wow, I love your motivational introduction, Tina. Thank you. Excuse my husky voice. It's actually 5:15 in the morning on the Gold Coast.
Thank you for getting up for that.
No, well, this is it. I've got clarity in the morning. It's the evenings where my brain starts to shut down. So it's good.
Funny, when we were trying to find a time for this. So Evie, for the listeners, Evie is one of my very best friends. We talk to each other multiple times a week. Not actually, because we live on different sides of the world, with Evie being near Brisbane and me being in the middle of the US. And but we send voice memos back and forth like multiple times a week. And when we were trying to set the time for this, it was basically your early morning, my early morning, or your late night or my late night. Those were pretty much the choices. And at first we were saying late my it would have been midday for you, roughly, my evening.
Yeah.
And I was just like, doing that stuff at late at night is so hard for me. And then you pretty much were like, yeah, doing stuff late at night is hard for me. Like, we're both very much people that don't mind getting up early in the morning to, like, you'd rather like take time off in the morning, but like get it out of the way than have it like looming over you all day and be exhausted and trying to think. So,
yeah,
I appreciate your honesty here, but here we are. So I mentioned to you, but to the listeners, we are recording this. We're going to push this out pretty quickly because we wanted this to be a conversation. I physically have been going through a bit of a rough time. Evie and I, a lot of the time, just end up being a listening ear to one another about just things being tough. I have done no prep for this episode. I just thought it would be a conversation between two friends about topics that I genuinely think most people listening will have some understanding of, connection to, and I just think it's what we need right now, because there's so much like turmoil in our world, but there's also a lot of feeling like we have to be either feeling devastated for these events or really happy because we're so fortunate that we have such a great life and da-da-da-da-da. But there's a lot of tough stuff going on. So I thought you and I could just have a chat and just have a third person in the conversation who is our listeners who are just here with us. So anything you'd want to add to that?
No, that's a perfect way to describe what we're about to do. And the other thing is, I haven't prepped really. And again, it's just part of that. I think I should prep, there's another thing I have to do.
Do you feel that because of the psychologist, because you are a psychologist, you feel that like you got to justify, or what is the reason you feel you need to prep?
I think it's just my character, just my nature. I always want to prepare for things. From a professional point of view, I feel a bit uncomfortable because, I haven't got, evidence-based tools to talk about in this conversation in my mind. But I also think that sometimes just hearing people talk about something and their perspective on things is a tool for other people. It's just a different lens. So people can just hear how we view something, how you interpret something I'm going through, how I think about something you're going through, and people listening can go, oh, well, actually, I think that, or actually, I also think this. So, as much as it's fantastic to have, practical tools and things to use, I find sometimes this is a tool, right? Just talking to somebody and somebody you trust.
Absolutely.
And, I'm going to talk, I'll bring her in right now because, she's the elephant in the room, Brene. We love Brene.
Welcome our third guest, Brene. Come join us. We wish.
a good friend of mine recently discovered her again and was talking about the anatomy of trust because she just watched that one. So I watched that again, and honestly, just when you have someone that you really trust and who trusts you, that connection and that ability to have a conversation with them is so helpful. So that's what we've got from my point of view, and I think it will be really helpful for people to listen. Yeah.
No, I definitely think that's true. And you and I have talked about, well, actually, maybe let's start there. So as we're talking about this, you sent me a link a few months ago between a conversation between Brene and Oprah, and they were talking about, Oprah was saying about what she called her kitchen cabinet, her friends or people in her life who always give her the truth, even if it's hard to hear, even if it's something that, she's been working on for a long time. And one of these people says, I just don't think this is a good idea. She trusts them. And Brene has talked about something similar with like a 1-inch square or something. But I would love your take on that. Like, why do you feel like, do you feel that's important? I mean, that really spoke to me, and I know it spoke to you. I'd love to hear a bit about why that is important, just from your own perspective.
Yeah, I was blown away by that conversation. That's why I've sent you that snippet of it, because it hadn't occurred to me to think about, sometimes you think, you go through your mind and think, right, I've got my friends, I've got so many friends online. Everyone has, there are between dozens and hundreds of friends on Facebook, on all of our social media. So there's those friends. And then there are, face-to-face friends. And then there are childhood friends. So friends are really interesting. And not just friends, but people in your life that are close to you. It's a really interesting concept, particularly now because of technology. And I've just been reading about it in the book that I've just mentioned, which I'll talk about at the end. But it's interesting how, studies on social media and the impact of social media, positive, negative, they're so mixed. They've been going on for years, these studies, but they're really, really mixed. So for every study that finds that social media disconnects you from other people and from feeling connected to other people, there's another study that says that it doesn't. So it's a really interesting quandary because, the whole point of social media is to connect. But then why is loneliness? Why are we all feeling so disconnected? So I've always been thinking about that, and that got me thinking about, my friends, like who would I call in the middle of the night? Who could I call who I would feel comfortable, who wouldn't need an explanation about why I need them, but I need them right now. And of course it would be an inconvenience, but who wouldn't judge me for it? Like who could I call? And I actually struggled to think of anyone. I mean, there's the whole point of, okay, I live on the Gold Coast. Who could I call right now that wouldn't have to fly across the world, right? Because, yes, I'd have friends like that, and you're one of them. But it just got me thinking, like, who's really got my back? And so when I heard that conversation between Brene and Oprah, it really resonated. I thought, wow, who really tells me the truth? And there are a few people. But what was interesting was I really had to think about who trusts me to tell me the truth? Like who actually, and I think of someone, I go, well, would they tell me the truth? And I think back about my experiences with them and think, well, possibly, probably, I wasn't sure. So what is that saying about my trust in them too? So it was interesting. I think you're definitely one of my marble jar or my kitchen cabinet friends. I think because that's proven, because you've been frank with me about things and honest and open, and that's the nature of our relationship. But I'm really struggling to think of.
It's hard, isn't it? And I very much felt the same way in that, you have people, we all have people, and I, as you know, consider you one of those as well, as I've told you, but we all have friends in our life or family potentially in our life who we consider close to us, but it's difficult because I feel like a lot of the time in our world, people think that what you want is someone to cheer you on all the time and say, like, you're doing great, you are awesome. And even if they think that, sometimes you just need someone almost to air maybe the things that you feel in your gut, but can't quite bring yourself to say it.
Talk about,
and you just are waiting for someone to say, like, hey, are you sure that's a good idea? And that's kind of what I think about. And actually that ties in quite nicely. And the reason I bring that up is just for people to think about in your lives, like, who are those people? They may not even be someone who you are that close to. And I don't know if you agree, Evie, but I have a few of the other people I would consider on that list. For me, they aren't people I talk to every week. They're not, but I know that if I need a straight answer about something, I can ask them and they will give it to me, even if it hurts, even if it's a bit of a like I'm taken aback for a second. They'll tell me the truth.
Well, they're objective. They're objective because they don't have that, perhaps that personal connection to you. And I think that's really important to realize, because with family, if I think about, okay, I'll say my mum and her, you want people who you want to be honest with you. They need to be objective. They need to know you, like really understand you. And sometimes I think with family, just from growing up and things that happen, it's like with your running. Like my family have never felt, I've never felt supported in the way that I would want to be with my running, as in it's just part of me, right? It's like, oh, you're going for another run, then that's not a negative thing. It's just that I feel, oh, maybe my family actually don't get who I really am. Whereas I think sometimes people who know you from afar have that clarity. They don't have any of that family stuff that's going to cloud their judgment, or those experiences with you as a family member that are going to cloud their judgment. So they just tell you like it is. That's what I find. People that aren't as close to you.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And family often is. There's too much emotion and history tangled in there to give a response that is able to take in things from an outsider's perspective, which is, as you said, what we often need. Now, the reason I brought that up is because the reason this podcast came to me and I wanted to record this was because I've now shared this with the world. However, at the time, you were the only person I had told this to. And that was that I've mentioned that I have bronchitis. I'm recovering from it right now. And I know when I did it, and I told it to you of what was going through my mind. And I think that is something that most, if not all people listening have resonated with. Maybe it's not bronchitis, but maybe it's a stress fracture. Maybe it's putting yourself in a situation you shouldn't have, that you've done before. We've all done that. And I sent you a voice memo saying that the reason I now have this was probably 5 days ago I sent this to you.
Yeah.
Was because Steve had asked me what workouts or what hard sessions I had done. over the last, who was saying few weeks, but it caused me to think about a few months. And I settled on, or as I thought back through it, I thought about one cancellation after the next, cancellation after the next. And as someone who had always done this elite world of like, you get it done. And, you know, I would say if I was ill, I probably would have taken that week off, but all the other excuses wouldn't have been there. Like, not my kids are sick, I can't do it, or it's icy outside. I would have found a treadmill or found something somewhere. I would have driven half an hour if I had to. The other reasons weren't there, and so I felt guilty, like I've just gone soft, is what I was telling myself. And so I went and did this, even though that gut instinct was telling me, don't do this. Don't do this. I just didn't listen. And you sent me a voice memo back, and I started listening to it, and it was amazing advice. But I thought, you know what? I'm not going to just keep this for myself. I want Evie to give this advice to all of us, because then in future, when someone is struggling, is in this moment, they'll be able to think back to this episode and think, I'm going to go listen to Evie right now and remind myself that I'm making the right choice, even if it makes me feel in this particular moment like I'm making excuses, or like I'm trying to get out of something, or I'm not strong enough. So if you remember what you said to me, or what would you say to me when I talked about that, about just feeling like a quitter? And that's something so alien to me, but also keeping in mind other people, their version might be, might be an injury, or might be something else that they have done damage to themselves. What would you say there?
Yeah, I was trying to think, well, I could easily go back and see what I said to you, but it doesn't matter, because I think it was a question, wasn't it? It was because you listed you talked about all the workouts that you'd missed, because that was the question. What hard sessions have you done? So you were talking about hadn't done this one because I was feeling rubbish. This one the weather was bad. The girls were sick. The babysitter cancelled. And then then you did the run that made you sick, or you feel it made you sick. And then I think I said to you, well, so what does it all mean? What does that mean to not do those hard workouts? Why is that quitting? And the other thing I think I said was, so we always think about what we haven't done, but think about what you have done. What workouts have you done? What runs have you done? And the question around, I think also with you though, there's like, I'm looking at it now with athletic identity for a book I'm writing, and you were an elite runner. That's still part of who you are, but sometimes I think these kinds of questions can really trigger that previous identity, and there can be like a mismatch, because now you've got a different take on your athletic identity, because it includes being a mother, a podcaster, all these other things that you do, and it's different. There's your expectations have shifted, but I think sometimes, even though your expectations have shifted, that is meaning, when you go into a race now, you're not going to expect to have a specific time that you'll achieve, or a position, because your training is different and your goals are different now. Your outcomes are different. So your expectations have changed, but I think it's still sometimes it's still very hard to not be triggered by questions that, make you think about how you were in a previous athletic life. So I think, because when I heard you say, I was going through the last few weeks, and then I realised I'd only really done 2 hard sessions, and I sort of said to myself, "Come on, Tina, you're just being soft." And I instantly thought, like, no, you actually, like, from my perspective, the way you approach your running now with everything else you're doing, i.e. you're a mother, like having 2 small children is completely encompassing. So I anything anyone else does outside of raising their children is is a massive achievement. And I think that's really underrated, because I'm finding, like, I've got toddler twins, and it's hard enough just to go to work 2 days a week. Outside of that, it's hard to even do stuff outside of parenting them day to day. It takes a lot of effort, because you put your whole heart and soul into raising these kids. So the fact that, you're thinking you're soft because you hadn't done, you'd only done 2 out of 5 hard sessions, it really hit me, like, wow, we're so hard on ourselves. Like, if you look at those days where you missed that hard run, but what you did in that day, how tough you were in that day by actually multitasking and managing your children and all the other things you had to do that day, plus potentially going for a run, but it wasn't a hard run, or you may have done a strength workout. It's a huge amount. So it really sort of resonated with, wow, we just don't see, the way we look at ourselves is so, I'm going to say raw. It's with a really hard ruler, like we're really hard taskmasters on ourselves. Other people can see the compassion that we need to give ourselves and the achievements we have done. But I think when we look at ourselves, and I don't know why, I think it's part of, previous athletic identities. It's part of, perhaps wanting to be back at that place sometimes, just having that freedom to just, or almost not accepting that you don't have that freedom to do those hard runs. Because if in a former life, if you'd missed your hard run, you would have just done it any other time of the day, the next day, but that's not how your life is now. There's obligations, there's responsibilities every single day that revolve around your children and your work.
Thank you to InsideTracker for sponsoring this episode of the Running For Real podcast. Friends, I'm pretty disappointed right now. I was supposed to have my InsideTracker test done tomorrow. I was going to envision some of you holding my hand while I got my blood taken, because I still hate needles. I still go every 3 months to get my InsideTracker test because I really believe in it, but I still hate needles. I was going to envision you with me, and then I got bronchitis, and now I'm on antibiotics, and so I can't go for a few weeks. And I'm honestly disappointed, because I love seeing the results of my InsideTracker tests. It makes me, I feel you can hear it in my voice, right? It makes me excited to even think about seeing the results, to see what things are now optimized, to see what things I have to work on and give me places to improve, and how to do it. They give you specific foods to add to your diet, specific lifestyle changes to get you to where your body wants to be, and see if you can get that ever closer to optimized while also having a life too. It doesn't mean that you don't get to have a life too. I've managed to optimize most of mine over the years, and I still love to eat ice cream. I still have some chips or something like that each and every day. It doesn't mean that you're going to obsess over getting your body clean foods and healthy foods. It's just going to allow you to take a look at what's on the inside. As we move forward into racing season, we want to see where things are at. We want to be ready to go, and we want to be able to adapt so that we can go for it when the time is right for us within our own bodies and our own schedules. So thank you again to InsideTracker for sponsoring this episode. You, my friend, can get 25% off by going to InsideTracker.com/Tina. That will get you 25% off. InsideTracker.com/Tina. Go check it out. And then in 2 weeks, you can come with me virtually to hold my hand as we go get our InsideTracker test done together, and we can geek out over our results together. Sound like a deal? InsideTracker.com/Tina. Go check it out. I'm not going to lie. There was a lot of moments in there where that little, yeah, but voice came through of like you saying, yeah. And that's what I mean. Like we so often, like when you said about getting anything done beyond kids, and I'm like, my first thought was, well, yeah, but there's other people that do that. They run at the elite level and they have kids, which, I know there's obviously that's a nuance point. There's other things to mention in that. And that's the whole thing of like, we always only see what's on the surface of someone's life. we see the tip of the iceberg, right? We don't see what's underneath.
Mm.
So there's multiple things you said along there where I wanted to say, yeah, but as I continued listening, a lot of those melted away as like, okay, yeah, she has a point. However, for me, what mainly comes up when I hear you saying that is thinking about many of the people listening here right now. Like maybe it's kids, maybe it's a parent who needs a lot of support right now. Maybe it's a career where you are, trying to be a partner at a law firm and you're working 90 hours a week. We see that. I see people doing those things, including kids, and yet they are going for it in their running as well. Maybe it's not going for a sub 2:30 something marathon, but it could be like a 3 something, which requires more time, or a 4 something that requires even more time. So, I guess, yeah, for me, I easily get triggered by that old me that kind of wants to, yeah, maybe I hadn't thought about that. You said about kind of almost being curious with that old life. And I think that is still there for me, especially as I get asked all the time about returning. And that always keeps that little, like, people are always going to be asking me about that until I'm, 50. And then they'll say, okay, we'll see. Maybe she can achieve some things in masters, but she's probably not going to hit the, I don't even know what it'd be, the main category, I suppose. But until then, she can always go back.
You're going forward. You're not going back.
And I do feel like for me, I'm mostly at peace, but mostly with this, I wanted us to talk about just this because, as you said, we are so hard on ourselves. And
why? Okay, the first thing, I'm going to jump in. The first thing that comes to mind is the comparison. I think that's a big part of it. We position ourselves in relation to others. So, you're right. Like, yes, I'm not achieving, what I used to, and I'm doing my runs when I can, and doing my sport when I can. Same for me, because I was doing age group triathlon, and now what am I doing? Swimming twice a week, no running, and I've just bought a bike, so I'm really far from where I used to be and where I want to be. And then we think about, well, okay, I can be happy where I am now, but then how come, like, I can see hundreds, thousands of people who are achieving so much more. Like, they seem to be able to have the children, have the full-time job, and be progressing in their sport or their running, And so therefore it's not like, why, it's not sort of an envy thing, but it's well, if they can do it, why can't I do it?
Yes.
And I'm thinking, why does it matter? But why do we have to even think about other people? What relevance does that have on how we feel about our lives and where we are?
But surely it goes back to, it goes surely all the way back to our beginning as humans, in where, like, if someone in your village found a new way of, I don't know, cutting up meat, and it was much quicker and more efficient, then you'd be like, oh, I think I'm going to try and do that. Isn't comparison just part of it?
I just think it's so good that you bring that up. Like, because I was just reading about community, right? Like, the whole point of existence is to connect with other people and to be in a community. And so exactly like, someone creates a wheel, it's round. Oh, look.
Yeah, square wheel. It's easier than my round wheel is easier than, or their round wheel is easier than my square one.
I love that, and that's so true. That's a really good point. That brings me to community. So, isn't the whole point of a community to pull one another, support one another, and to pull together and work together? And that's that's what we have in our immediate communities, our family. We work together, a greater family. But in terms of, the world and like looking at other people and what they can do with their running, we're quite separated from that. It's too big, I think. And we don't feel supported. We just feel threatened. When we look at that, we go, oh, why can't they're doing that? Why can't I? But there's no sense of they can help me do what I'm doing or help me get to where they are. It's more we're all on our own, just trying to.
I remember something else reading about how part of that is the fact that I think is it the book Tribe, Sebastian. I want to say Young, and the book is Tribe. I want to say it's about. I remember reading that communities were no bigger than 100 to 150 people. And so, whereas now we're comparing to the whole world, essentially.
Yeah.
And so everything we're doing, we like in these tribes before, maybe, someone was the best runner, but someone else was the best at this. But now we're looking at what we are, we're looking at what we are average at, and we're comparing it to all the best people in all the best places. And so it almost feels a lot more suffocating because it's like, well, I don't have my area because there's always someone better. I don't have my strength, I suppose, or I don't have something that people come to me for because there's always someone else they can go to.
But you have to be realistic as well and keep it. Building a community is, for me, is immediate. It has to be practical too. You can't just continue to have a massive, billions of people in your community. There is that community, obviously, but in your immediate community where you want to feel nurtured and supported, it's the people around you that are like-minded, that, those kitchen cabinet friends who tell you the truth, who've got your back, who don't want you to feel threatened by something someone else is doing, but feel excited about something someone else is doing. So, that's why you have the friends that you have and the people in your life that you have. Because that would be, and I think that's why with social media we feel this is a more impactful. We're affected a lot more by this feeling because we have so much access to seeing the lives of others everywhere, all the time. Bang, 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 bang.
Mm-hmm.
People on mountains, people doing this, people in the, trekking through the desert. You can't help, but you can't shut yourself off from that, can you? Like, it's just like, oh, you want to have that big community and to have all of those people in your life.
Mm-hmm.
It's very overwhelming.
Yeah.
I think it's really overwhelming. And it makes me feel, when I look at social media and I see all these amazing things people are doing, I do feel excited. But I think when I go away from that, I sort of have this funny feeling in my stomach. I think, like I'm missing out. Or I'm not. Then I start thinking, well, so what? I'm looking at my life and then pulling that apart. Like, why aren't I doing that? And why? It's just, it's hard.
So from here, can we go into something else that you and I have talked about related to this? Now, again, this is to do with having young kids, but for the listeners, even if you don't have kids, I feel like this can be very applicable just in general to, this never-ending feeling like you can't get through what you want to do. Now, you and I have we are very much at the mercy of childcare in that we can only get things done work-wise when childcare is around. But even, as I said, beyond that, I think it can go to anything about this, like, when you think back to the past, like I'm saying, like 50 years ago, you know, life was a lot slower, and technology has changed that. But we also forget about how much paperwork there is for everything we do right now, how many hoops we have to jump through to do everything. I mean, even when we think about just signing up to go to the doctors, or if you sign up to, I don't know, go on a zip lining, you know, adventure, you have to sign all this stuff and read all these things and prepare
when do
all
you get
these
time
things.
to do that? Come on. See?
But you know what I mean? Like, there's so many things that require, I mean, even, you know, like food, like in the past, people maybe I would imagine, have gone to their local shop, walked there, picked up their fruits and vegetables, and just cooked it. Whereas now, you know, I feel like, oh, I really need to wash these things, and then I should dry them and put them in tubs, and then chop them up so they're all ready to go. But yeah, let's talk to, I know you feel the stress of this, and we've talked about this a lot, that like just weight on our shoulders of there's so much to do and I just never seem to get through it.
It's a horrible place to be, because you end up, again, you're not looking at, you can't appreciate anything you do when you're constantly thinking of what's weighing you down. You miss out on appreciating everything you get done. And so it's just a compounding feeling of getting to the end of the day and going, oh God, I still haven't done that. I still haven't called that roofer. And this is where I'm going to jump in and go to myself, oh yeah, me and my first world problems. And I even don't like saying that, because that to me doesn't feel genuine. Like, I recognize that, yes, I've got a privileged life compared to a lot of other people. But it's still my life. Like, I've still worked hard to get to where I am, and I still appreciate it, and I appreciate everybody's life. I don't know why we have to. Have you noticed that people? It's a constant thing that people say, and now I feel like it's just like a tick the box thing where people go, "Oh no, it's a first world problem." I just feel like it's not. I've just gone off track, but I feel like that's not really a genuine thing people say, and they don't really understand why they're saying it. But I think with the whole weight on your shoulders, again, it's the only way I relieve some of that pressure is to just take stock, sit down and go, right, okay, what's really squeezing me the most? What is it I keep worrying about today? Can I do that today? What can I do to fix that, to change it, to resolve it, to get it done? And focus on just one thing. And my husband's really good at this. Like, it doesn't matter how much of a task he has in front of him, how big it is, he will break it down and literally not waste any energy on thinking about anything but just the one little thing he has to do in that moment, and then goes to the next thing and the next thing. Like moving countries two and a half years ago, migrating around the world with 6-month-old twins, and having to set up a home in, well, not a new country, my old country, but, you know, not having a home here, not having, a job here, etc. And then traveling for a month across the world. Like, that task to me before we did it was massive. Like, I'd like, God, where do we start? What do we do? And my husband was just, well, I've got to get the visa, and then we do this, and just literally plowed through the tasks and was never overwhelmed, was never stressed. And it really showed me that, you know what, it doesn't matter how big the task, you can, if you stay focused in the moment, task focused, you can get it done. And I think, again, when we're talking about, you know, us just feeling this constant, oh my God, there's so much to do, we have to find a way that works for us. I think some people like to write down a few tasks, you know, and tick them off. Some people write it on a notice board, on a whiteboard, and just tick it off. Some people just decide in their head, right, today I'm doing this and this is it. I'm not worrying about anything else. I'm just doing this. And then when they get it done, they appreciate it, actually own it and appreciate it and be grateful for having done it. And
how do you do that? Because that's not so easy to do, right? Because we always overestimate what we actually think we can get done. It seems like, oh, that should be realistic to do these 5 things, and then you get 2 of them done.
Yeah, well, we have to just, I think, know that about yourself. Because you gave me really good advice when I was saying that I added a day of working from home to my week, and I remember saying to you, yeah, I've got a whole day to work, 8 hours, and you're like, yeah, maybe just a word of advice from my experience is what you said to me. Like, honestly, if you've got a 6-hour block to do some work, almost halve it, because there are other things that come up. You won't get it done, and it is so true. That's particularly working from home, but that really, okay, I altered my expectations. So I said, right, I've got a whole day, which made me feel really uncomfortable. I've got 7 hours. Why am I only thinking I'll be productive for 3? And also, what's the time limit anyway? It's not about the time. It's like, get the task done. Right. Write out 1 case study. That's my goal for today. Or write out 1 client case for work. That's my goal today. Go by work rather than time, and really scale it back and do it. How do you do it? By having an honest conversation with yourself and knowing what's happened today, and going, well, even if I have more time to do more, I'll just peel it right back so that at least I can get it done, get 1 or 2 things done, and then feel happy about those things and satisfied. Yeah.
Do you think we struggle to be honest with ourselves?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, this whole episode, right? We've kind of been talking of variations of this. Like, it's listening to ourselves and being honest.
I think so, because I think it's really tricky to know for yourself, where is that line between being self-compassionate and just not being hard enough on yourself, but actually not being truthful. Like, it could be that you are just not motivated and not getting things done because you are disorganized, or you're just not motivated, or you're doing other things, and you could call that slacking off, whatever you want to call it, which aren't, very helpful terms. But it could be that actually you're not putting in the effort that you want to put in. So it's quite okay to say that to yourself, but I think we almost have this fear of going, part of it, on one side we go, yeah, we're really hard on ourselves, like, come on, you're just being soft, or you're being slack. And then there's that other part in my brain that goes, oh, you need to be kind to yourself, show yourself compassion. But am I just deluding myself? Because, hang on, no, I'm actually not working very hard and I need to pull my socks up. But I think you can still have that talking to without the judgment, right? I think that's the difference.
Thank you to the Boulder-thon for sponsoring this episode of the Running For Real podcast. What is the Boulder-thon, you ask? Well, on October 9th, 2022, yep, that is a few months away from now, there will be this 2nd annual Boulder-thon, which has a full marathon, a half marathon, a 10K, and a kids run, and it is run in one of the happiest cities in America. You are going to run at the foothills of the Rockies and join the Boulder community. Yes, that community where so many of the runners we love and look up to live. You never know, you might run into one of them while you're warming up. This community, Boulder, is one of the greatest meccas in the US. That is why so many professional and running focused people have flock there, live there. Honestly, I would live there if I could. I'm not kidding. I really would love to live there. It is an amazing place to be. And for the first time in history, they have an epic downtown boulder finish. How cool is that? Can I actually come with you if you decide to sign up for this race? It just sounds a lot of fun. And Boulderthon is sure to be an incredible event, just from what I am seeing here right now. You can check out their website by going to boulderthon.org. That's BOULDERTHON.org, boulderthon.org. And if you use code TINA, you can get $20 off the full or half marathon. So that's code TINA. That will get you $20 off the full or the half marathon. And friends, we've been trapped inside for so long. Let's go enjoy some of these races that the US has to offer. There are so many fun things to be doing, and this Boulderthon is added to my list for sure to be one to be doing. Maybe you will even see me there. Who knows? I may end up signing up. Go to boulderthon.org to check out more information and go do that race October 9th, 2022. Okay, so then let me take an example from earlier. Today we had 5 hours of babysitting, and I was like, I've got all this time. I'm going to get this done, that done. And I did get quite a lot done. And then I had this time of like half an hour between me recording with you and like kind of coming to an end point or maybe a boredom point with something I was doing. And before I knew it, I found myself reading about we've been watching this TV program called We Crashed on Apple TV, which is about WeWork. And it's really good. And I resonate a lot with the characters, just being a business person, being that kind of like, I mean, the main guy's personality is nothing like mine, but there's just some things that resonate. But anyway, I find myself reading this article about the guy who it's based on, Adam Newman.
Yeah.
And I mean, I had no reason to be reading that. I'm watching the TV show, so watch the damn TV show. Like, why do you need to read an article about how similar it was to how WeWork actually is?
Why not? Why not?
Because I only get this limited amount of time. I'm always saying I don't have enough time. So why was I reading for 5 to 10 minutes this article that I really didn't need to be reading? And like what I got out of it is, yeah, the show is actually pretty accurate. But why did I need to know that?
I'm just laughing because of like, yeah, thinking of picturing you giving yourself like that, talking to like, oh, come on, Tina, what the hell? And now you've got to talk to Evie. Gee, now that's it, the end of my 5 hours. But yep. I think, well, as you said, you were coming to the end of, your concentration. Maybe it was just your concentration, was waning, and you just needed like a mental sip of water.
But why couldn't I have gone to meditate rather than reading an article on like Vanity Fair or whatever it was?
Well, it was a choice. It's just a choice you made. I don't want to overthink it. Like, because we can, I mean, I do that all the time. Why did I go to the laundry and do that when I really just wanted to go and, answer that email? What am I doing? I think partly you're thinking that because you have the time pressure, like it's an expectation. I've got a block of time. I need to deliver for myself.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know what the answer to that is. I think,
well, I guess it's that we like, go on, finish what you were going to say.
No, we need to allow ourselves to just trail off and be curious about stuff. And, we need to.
Yeah. Yeah.
What were you going to say?
I wonder if it's that we, have, like, we almost have to have a certain amount of like dead time in our day. And yes, we absolutely should be using it to, like, in the past, people would have just gone to sit outside for a few minutes or sit on the couch and relax or listen to the radio or something. But now we we feel like we have to fill that void. So even if we're not doing something productive, we can be, skimming an article that is kind of somewhat pleasure, somewhat like not necessary. Or maybe it's scrolling onto it. Like, I wonder if it's just like this century, even though it's kind of sad, version of dead time. And I would imagine that the goal for most of us is to get to where our dead time, that we're not doing anything, is spent just being still and being quiet. But maybe that's, those chunks of time are just the examples of the windows that we can take back if we choose to.
I think that's right. I also think that just our lifestyles are so fast paced now, in that, it's not just everyone gets up, commutes, goes to work, but there is just a lot. We put a lot of stuff, fill our days with a lot of stuff, and it's good. Like, we want to be productive and we want to be, it makes us feel motivated when we are productive. But it's very difficult to just find that balance for yourself without help, sometimes without someone outside of you helping, like your husband or your friend or a coach. Or I think we need that outside perspective. I think that's why, like, I'll talk to you, you'll talk to me, just to have that other person give you a little bit of a different view.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I don't want to I'm not using having children as an excuse for not getting more done. It's just a different choice, isn't it? It's just having something in your life that's taking priority now. And, sometimes work takes priority. And I think it's, when people are preparing for a marathon and they want to taper, and there's that old school thought of, carb up. Well, it may not be old school, like have masses of, carb load before a marathon, right? Or any race. It doesn't have to be a marathon. But what you start to do is you alter your nutrition a week before it, or 2 weeks before it, or whenever. And I remember talking to a coach one day, and I was saying to him, so some of my clients talk about having to carb load, and keep asking me about how much carb they should have, and I'm not trained as a physiologist. I said, I don't know, or a nutritionist. I said to this coach, what do you what do you advise your clients? And he said, well, I don't look at it as having more, or he said, I look at it as a plate of food, and then you cut it into a pie, and each portion is a different thing. It's protein, it's carbs, it's fats, it's nutrients, it's this. He said, what I advise clients to do is adjust the portions. It's not have a massive amount, but just adjust it based on your needs at the time. So have 2 pieces of the pie as carbs, have 2 pieces as protein, and 1 piece as fats, or just alternate it. And I use that for a metaphor for like my day. I think, right, so today, my pie, I've got no kids, so that those portions have gone. Like, I can use those portions for, work, or swimming, or yoga, or life admin, as my niece calls it. That's all that stuff you were talking about, the paperwork and the stuff that you have to do to organise your day-to-day stuff, like buying food and everything we do. My niece calls it life admin, and my sister and I laugh about it, but it's actually true. Like, it takes a massive amount of time. Life admin takes so much time out of your day. But again, it's just looking at your day and maybe looking at it like a pie and going, right, I've got 1 piece to do life admin. I've got 2 that used to where the kids were, so I can do work in those 2. And then the third one is, for sport. And then the 5th one is for whatever, for relaxing. But I think we'd have to adjust. We have to be flexible. And that reminds me of a podcast I listened to. One of Rich Roll's, he was talking to Joe DeSena and the founder of, is it Spartan? The adventure racing.
Mm-hmm.
And he was talking about just the new sort of mental toughness is the ability to pivot. So pivot and change and be flexible and think on your feet and spin right round. And instead of going one way where you were planning to go, if it's better to go the other, you do that. Like just having that, almost that consciousness, that awareness to change in that moment. So, day to day, I think we have to try and really adjust our day. And I find that hard. Like, I don't know, are you a fairly routine person? Like, do you plan out the day, or is every day really different?
Yeah, I'd say every day is quite different. We really use our calendars, and I'd say that's a big part of things. But yeah, I think for us, I think, again, having kids has taught me that I have to, like, things are going to come up, things are going to change, things are going to cancel. And so I think generally, as I mentioned to you last week, in the day-to-day of things, I can handle it when something comes up, because I'm kind of always have in the back of my mind that could cancel.
Yeah.
But as I mentioned to you last week, I think when it compiles, I'm kind of like, it's almost like, I'll catch up. But when all that stacks up to where I feel like I can't catch up and I'm a long way behind, that's when I feel like a small thing going wrong. Is like, I think I mentioned to you one of those days, like, just like, it's just one thing after the next.
Pressure.
And so, and again, as you mentioned, like you said about privilege, pressure is a privilege. I absolutely understand that in the way that both you and I and many listening live our lives. But yeah, I think for me, I'm able to handle things and flex and have that flexibility, have that pivot, as you said. But I do find
easy.
After when the more things that happen in a row, the more I struggle to keep that perspective, I suppose. What about you?
I guess it's always helpful when people say to me, well, what needs to change? What needs to change for you to feel less pressure? Like, what is it? Because it helps me start to think about what's the solution. So for you, when you have all those things compounding and the work's just it's just building, what's one thing that could change? Like, what needs to change for you to feel less pressure? That would be a question. And it could be having reliable childcare, which isn't possible. You just can't have that, right? Because that stuff happens. Or is it changing one of those tasks? Is it shelving something for another time so that you don't need to worry about it? I think have to try and be a bit more solutions focused, I think.
But isn't that moving further away from
getting it done?
More that, like, don't we want to be getting to a place in our lives where it's not about so much solutions? It is just living with that, like, as my therapist I've used says, radical acceptance. So I think it's Tara Brach that came up with that. Radical acceptance. Like, don't we want to kind of get to the point of that with the tasks?
Yeah, but acceptance isn't. It's a practice. You have to work on it, and it's easy to say I accept it, but then still feel pressure because things aren't going away. So it's how do you do that? And I also think sometimes it's helpful to actually look at what's making you feel pressure and actually reworking it. Yeah, is there anything in there that I can remove, or as I said, actually not worry about doing that right now, or give that to someone else to do, or get some help to do this. those practical things can really help. And it's you're accepting your situation. You're looking at a way to try and almost improve it. And with the acceptance, yeah, it's not easy to do it. It is. I'm not going to say but. It is possible, and it's choice. It's thinking about something, and it's choosing to allow that to be in your life without feeling pressure. But again, how do you do that? Because in reality, that's easy to think about, but then you've got, someone calling you or for something, or, your husband says, look, I'm going to be away, and then there's more pressure because you have to show up more. There's, someone at work is sick, a child's sick. So it's all those day-to-day things that just, I find, compound and interfere with, like my plan to not be pressured and to get this done is clear. I'm going to do it. And then things always just pop up. That's what I find.
Yeah.
As you said, it's hard.
It is. Thank you for sharing with us and your honesty and vulnerability with, what you're going through too, because I think it's very easy for us mere mortals to think that psychologists have everything figured out and that, they don't deal with any of these things because they have these tools and they use them. But I appreciate you sharing that you also struggle with this.
Oh, absolutely.
Just wrapping up, is there anything you want to tell the listeners, either something you've been thinking about lately or you've been, working through that you think would be helpful for a lot of people right now?
I think we talked about it's funny because I was going to mention this, having that kitchen cabinet. I think it's really important. I don't think you need a whole cabinet. I think just thinking about your life and your friends and your acquaintances and your family, thinking about one person who you can really trust. I think that's really important. Just having someone who's got your back and you can really trust, just to talk things through with, really helps. And, sometimes it doesn't need to be a solution. It's just you just want to talk and vent and feel comfort by allowing your emotions to be heard. That's one thing I would suggest. And yeah, I think just taking stock. So when you feel pressure and feel that constant, like, oh God, it's like overwhelming. And I feel like sometimes I'm walking in mud, like it's getting thicker and thicker. Like day to day, it's hard. I think taking stock. So that means stopping. And as you mentioned, you're big on meditation, but even just for a minute.
No, right now.
Yeah. But even for a minute, like I think it's really important, like to tell everyone, remember, you don't need an hour to go for a run or an hour to listen to music and relax. You need seconds. You need a minute. It doesn't have to be long. It's actually just making that change, putting that into that moment and doing it. That's important. So it could be for 30 seconds or a minute, because then you're more likely to do it as well. To just close your eyes, do some deep breathing, just take stock. Like, what is it that's actually really freaking me out right now? And really pinpointing that and identifying that. And then when you find what that is, what can I do to change that? What can I do? And if you don't feel there's anything you can do, talk to someone and get some perspective from someone else.
Yes,
that's what I would say. Point. What about you?
No, thank you. That's really helpful. I think that's it. I think it's okay that it's good to have some people in your life who you can talk to, even if it is taking what we do and using that, sending voice memos. I love sending voice memos to people, whether it's a video or just a voice message like you and I do. Like, it makes me feel connected. I look forward to them. Sometimes I use them as and I know you do this too, I can't wait to listen to this while I'm making dinner, or like whatever it may be. And I think that I find that really helpful as well. Just having those little chunks of connection if things are in a state of not really allowing as much connection as you'd like in other areas. So yeah, I think that's a good good place to wrap.
Yeah.
Evie, you are currently writing a book, which is very exciting. So we'll be having you back on when that is out to share about that. But in the meantime, where can people find you, or would you rather they didn't find you while you were writing your books and your focus?
I love that. Would you rather I didn't find you? They can. Well, I'm going to mention my website. It's just my name, eviesventi.com. But you can email me or call me anytime. Actually, people can have my email address. You can put that in the show notes. It's Evie. Well, actually, I've got two. I'll send them to you later.
Okay. All right. I will put links in the show notes so the listeners can go find them. Thank you, my friend, for talking through this twice with me. And I hope this has been helpful. I
think so.
I think they will find it helpful. But I appreciate you. Now get whatever time you can grab to yourself before the kids wake up if they aren't already.
I think they're awake, but that's okay. I've so enjoyed chatting with you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you too. I love you, and
love you too.
I hope all the listeners can, enjoy our talk, our chat.
Yes. All right. I will speak to you soon.
Bye.
Hi, friends. Just a quick message to say a big thank you to the Running for Real team. While I may be the face of Running for Real and the voice behind the podcast, there are a group of people who are working tirelessly to provide everything that runners could need within our community to make our community stronger, better, and evolve and grow and learn from one another. We are working really hard to make Running for Real the place we believe it can be within our community. I just want to take a moment to thank everyone on our team. That is Victoria, Stacey, Sandy, Sally, Maria, Kelsey, Kat, Jeremy, and Erica. I appreciate each and every one of you and the hard work that you put in. Now let's get back to the show. I hope you enjoyed that episode. I know it was a bit of a sway off our usual conversations. However, I feel like it was just right for Evie and I. It was quite a self-focused episode, but I find that with those things, they really help a lot of our community because we all feel like we're alone. We all feel like we're struggling. We all feel like we have too much pressure and not enough time. And I hope in some way that resonated with you and you found it helpful in your life. If not, and you're not, well, you wouldn't be here anymore. So thank you for listening all the way through. You are obviously a loyal listener and I really appreciate you. Just want to take a moment to thank our sponsors, Athletic Greens. You can get a 1-year free supply of vitamin D3 and K2, which work really well together along with that stellar Athletic Greens package by going to athleticgreens.com/Tina. You can also get 25% off InsideTracker, which is going to check out your blood work, see how your body is looking from the inside. And when you listen to this, I'll be currently waiting for my results, which I am pretty excited to see the findings of. So you can go to InsideTracker.com/Tina to go get that. And also to the Boulder-thon, this awesome race that is happening in Boulder. Be sure to go to boulderthon.org. And use code TINA to get yourself $20 off the half marathon or the marathon options. And it just sounds awesome. There's also links in the show notes to go get all of those, which you can find at runningforreal.com/episode 295. I also want to remind you that we are now doing these extra downloads for each episode. So be sure to go check those out and you can go find a link to those in the show notes. This is going to give you things to reflect upon, things to think about in your own life. And we're calling it Run and Reflect. So be sure to go check that out. Thank you so much for listening. I will see you on Monday for a Together Run. And well, actually the Together Run on Monday is the Boston Together Run. So enjoy that one. And also for our running reunion next Wednesday. Thank you so much for listening. I'll see you next week.